Matt, can you talk about that? Just that, you know, you're going from being almost like this classification of civilian that is stripped of all your rights, and then upon release, you know, how do you look at the options ahead of you? What does that look like?
Well, the truth is, there really isn't. I don't think most people, when they get out, they're really thinking that far. They're just happy to get out in that moment and second. But then once they're out, the reality sinks in that now that they really have to now do what it takes to survive. And if you've been locked up in a cage for the majority of your time, well, what does survival look like for you? You know, and I think that that's what's missing. A lot of folks look at, or they have this great debate about the conditions of what the conditions should be, what it isn't be. Well, there's entitlements that every Massachusetts prisoner has. And that entitlement is to make sure that they have program access, reentry access, and a step-down process. And that's what fundamentally is being deprived here. Those step-down process in order to justify and rationalize bed space that otherwise would be empty in the maximum security I'm speaking, right? So when you're using the classification process in that manner, right, that deprives folks to go down in lower security, they could never make it down to a minimum or a pre-release.
Well, I want to stop you there because that's a big part of the story that I think is worth stopping to kind of explain is the classification process, right? So there is a system, and you spoke to state officials, prison officials who've said, like, people will be eventually stepped down to lower security. That's where they're given these resources within this system, right? Or they're moved into a different part of Sousa. But that's not what happened to Jamal, and it sounds like it's not what happens to a lot of people. So what is that? How does that work, or not work, I guess, in this case?
Well, it doesn't work, period. That's the problem. So you have a lot